How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another DJ and Vish Day After show. DJ, how's it going, man?
It's going good. The day after is a little bit rough, but we're hanging in here. We're hanging in
Yeah,
here
and
after the victory.
I am still in enemy territory out here in Tallahassee, and DJ was kind enough to do the earlier morning wake up call so we can make our flight out of here. So yeah, thanks DJ for extra early this time.
Yeah, of course. Not a problem at all. It's always fun to wake up after wins, and this was a big one.
Yeah, especially a win over Florida State. Real quick before we get into our ad, we just shout out to Joel Davis, FSU booster, who's also a big supporter of Coach Coop's show, who hooked us up with tickets, and they were tickets actually in the suite, and unlimited food and drinks. Man, we were sitting like on it. It was crazy where we were sitting. So there's unlimited food and drinks in like air conditioned inside area, and then like we're like sitting on like a platform with like a table in front of us and like swivel chairs around it, and that's like where we watched the game from. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he hooked us up. Shout out to him, and shout out to Coach Coop as well. It was great hanging out with him and a lot of the viewers. They did ticket giveaway as well. But yeah, let me get into our ad read, and then we'll talk about the Canes' big victory here against a certain team in Tallahassee. And our sponsor, of course, is 305-800-PAIN. After an accident, every minute counts. With one call to 305-800-PAIN, you get immediate access to trusted doctors and attorneys who guide you step by step. With an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau, they are a brand you can trust. Much like 5 Reasons Canes, 305-800-PAIN is focused on the local community of Miami-Dade County in South Florida to handle all your accident needs, including car accidents, personal injuries, and related legal matters. So after an accident, be sure to call 305-800-PAIN. The number is the brand, 305-800-PAIN. Después de un accidente, cada minuto cuenta. Con una llamada a 305-800-PAIN, ustedes pueden obtener acceso inmediatamente a doctores y abogados para ayudar con todo el proceso. Con una clasificación de A+ del Better Business Bureau, pueden confiar en ellos. 305-800-PAIN tiene mucho en común con las 5 razones que están enfocados en la comunidad local de Miami-Dade County y el Florida del Sur. Ellos pueden ayudar con todo después de un accidente, incluyendo accidentes de carro, lesiones personales y otras cosas legales relacionadas. Entonces, después de un accidente, llama 305-800-PAIN. El número es el nombre de la marca, 305-800-PAIN. And DJ, I don't know if they can solve what FSU is failing this morning, but they should probably give 305-800-PAIN a call anyway. So obviously the Canes win 28-22. It was 28-3 pretty late into the game, and so I think we'll kind of break this down. But what were your initial impressions on the performance from Miami?
Good game for Carson Beck. I know he kind of, we talked about the offense being a little bit disjointed before the bye week. He looked sharp on Saturday. And, I think it's just a testament to his ability to play in big games. And this was definitely a big game. And he showed up. He showed up at a high level. And on a day when the running game didn't necessarily bring, its best, not for lack of trying, but just because I think FSU defended the run decently well. Beck really showed up and played at a high level. And I guess, one of my other takeaways was kind of the offensive lulls in the fourth quarter. I believe at one point they had 7 total yards of offense. So obviously it didn't end up affecting the outcome too poorly, but that was a little bit alarming. But by and large, this is still a good Florida State team, and they got the job done.
Yeah, and actually, you raise a really good point on Carson Beck's performance and just the passing game as a whole. we talked about after the Florida game, which he did struggle some. It wasn't like terrible, like we've seen a lot worse around here, but it wasn't up to the standard we kind of expect from him. That one of the obviously Florida has a great defense. We saw that again yesterday, actually, but
yeah, we did.
They sit in that too high shell, and they're like, we're not going to get beat over the top. You're not going to take the top off our defense. If you're going to move the ball, it's going to be on the ground. It's going to be throwing underneath. Florida State stacked the box, like you said. They loaded up on the run. It was a grind in there, but that did leave their corners exposed, and Carson Beck shredded them over the top multiple times. So many big plays. In fact, their touchdown passes.
Yeah,
the two of them were way down the field on bombs. One was a flea flicker, obviously, but it was still a long throw.
Yep.
The other one was set up. Like the first touchdown was set up by a pass over the top. So this is what a good balanced quality offense does. You can't take both things away at once, and if you can do both things, then like if FSU had backed off and started playing safeties back, we would have been able to run the ball. But they stuck to crowding the box, trying to take the run away, and that allowed Carson Beck to basically destroy them. I mean, 4 touchdown passes will do it. So yeah, it was a good performance from him. I'll also say, like, the coaching, these coaches don't get enough credit. Like, I mean, it was a running joke around Miami about like, oh crap, here comes a bye week, and like the team will come out prepared or anything. They use that bye week very effectively. FSU runs a lot of misdirection, a lot of trickery, and none of it worked. None of it worked. Every time they try to reverse or fake reverse or any of that stuff, Miami was all over it. On the flip side, Miami's trick plays and shot plays all hit. So it was a really, really good game plan from both the offensive and defensive coaching staff. And I don't think our coaches are getting enough credit for how well they're coaching this team, preparing this team, not just attitude-wise, but just X's and O's wise. This team was very well prepared coming in.
Absolutely. They made the most of their bye week. And, when you look at the environment in Tallahassee against a rival, they rose to the moment. And in previous years, they would not have rose to the moment. Let's be honest here. And they were able to do that on Saturday. And, Florida State, I kind of joked and said that the Hurricanes would win by, 40, but they came well prepared too. And they got punched by Miami and were able to get back up for some of the game. And Miami, that didn't faze them. They just stuck to what they had planned, and they did it well. And, on a day, again, when the run game wasn't working, they didn't really force it too much. They stuck with what was working, and that was the arm of Carson Beck and the playmaking ability of Malachi Toney. I mean, I can't believe he's a freshman. I mean, he plays like an upperclassman. So it was good on the coaching staff to not necessarily try to force stuff that wasn't working, stick to what was working, and weather the storm that the Florida State, Seminoles brought.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the stats, they basically tell the story, right? Most of the effectiveness was through the air. I mean, you see the 97 rushing yards, 22 was on that reverse to Marion, which frankly he should have scored a touchdown on. The convoy up front and got impatient, kind of ran in front of it and got tackled, and he could just stay behind it, waited for his blockers to develop. But yeah, I think again, Florida State loaded up on it, and that's why you see like Malachi Toney and CJ Daniels really cooked them. It was also, Malachi Toney had a touchdown call back for an illegal shift. That was also another spectacular play. So like you say, so explosive, just a playmaker that everyone has to account for. I will also say, we talked about Carson Beck's accuracy. The touchdown, the flea flicker, he threw Malachi Toney open. Because while it did temporarily freeze the safety, he did start to get back, and if it wasn't a perfect throw, that's not a catch. And he dropped it right in there perfectly. It was a great throw and just a great play. Like we said, he had an outstanding game. Also, DJ, the tight ends showed up.
Yeah, they did. They showed up in a big way. I mean, Elijah Lofton, really was able to get down the field for some explosive plays. And when you look at how they affected the course of the game, they weren't necessarily taking over the game, but they made plays when you needed them to, and they made big plays when you needed them to. And I'm very happy that they showed up because, they needed everything to go right in the air, and the tight ends were a big part of that.
Right. And the other thing there is, in the last game, Bauman and Beck just appeared to not be on the same page, and they threw to him some critical spots here, and the connection was there. So that was very good to see. Like that was he had some big catches in this game when the Canes needed conversions, including when they were trying to ice the game, that kind of last drive the Canes had where he, got them in range to go for it and convert the fourth down. So yeah, no, it was a big game out of the tight ends. So a couple of other things kind of offensively. We'll talk about defense as well, of course. Yeah, the running game wasn't there. What did you think of the running back? Okay, so we didn't talk about this on Monday because frankly, last Monday's show, because frankly I forgot that this was a thing now in the ACC, but they actually do release a formal injury report. So gone are the obfuscation days of everyone's got a lower extremity and just making stuff up. They have to be accurate. So both JoJo Trader and Jordan Lyle were not on the injury report when it came out Thursday. So they're healthy because you're not allowed to list someone. You can't fib on those. So obviously Trader didn't play. Jordan Lyle did, and what did you think of his usage? Because he got a lot of carries for someone that hadn't been playing. What were your thoughts there?
I thought it was interesting because, like you said, it was, he hasn't really been played, and yet he was tasked to be utilized a lot. I'm wondering if they're just trying to ramp him up and kind of get him back into the swing of things. I am curious to see how he, factors into this running back rotation, because now you have Shamar Brown, who's been playing really well, and Lyle's absence as well, and that adds another running back. Plus you have Fletcher, and so it's really interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how the snaps are divided. I thought he might have kind of been a little bit overused to start things off, but I don't think that's something to be concerned about. I just was surprised at how involved he was in this game to start off.
Yeah, and shout out to Martin from Botswana, one of our longtime viewers and listeners. How's it going, man? Hope you enjoyed that win. I don't think the time zone was friendly for him. Yeah, I honestly, like I had a little bit of a Syracuse flashback where I felt like they forced him in the game at the wrong time.
Yeah.
The team was rolling. He came in when it was 14-3 and just forced another punt, and I felt like that was the time to not do that. But
yeah,
but they brought him in. But I will say the difference in this game versus that one, other than obviously the Canes won this time. Yeah, I agree. And also, just look, FSU loaded up on the run. No one was effective. I mean, look at these yards per carry.
Yeah,
none of them are good. So it wasn't like other than Marriott had 22 yards on that one reverse. Everything else is like a grind for our running back. So I don't know that anyone else would have been any more effective. But we talked about this on last Monday's show too. He does bring a little bit more speed to the running back position than our other two backs, and we felt like that was going to allow him more opportunities to get back into the rotation than Trader, and I think we saw that. I don't know if that was the right time to kind of shove him in there and keep using him, but they won the game, so maybe it was fine. But yeah, I guess it's good to get him that game action. No one else was really being effective either. So it's
that's the other thing too. I mean, at that point in the game, you were trying to find a spark at the running back position, and maybe he could have provided that. He didn't necessarily, but that's not because of him. That's just because of FSU's game.
Yeah, and exactly what Casey Kane fan is saying. They loaded the box up, so it didn't matter who we kind of put back there, and it's good for him to get that game action, especially if you didn't do it here, there's another bye week. So, like, you did need to get him some carries here, because otherwise it's going to be another 2 weeks before he gets carries. So, yeah, exactly. Good point. It was, so Lyle did look a bit rusty, but the ground game as a whole was hand up. Yeah, no, they were loaded up in the box, and they were saying beat us over the top, and Carson Beck obliged them. So, that's why you have a quarterback like that. So I don't know that anyone else would have been more effective. And I think at the time I was like, oh my God, we're doing this again. Because I felt like that was a big, because unlike last year, remember, similar deal for him. He got injured and then was the third running back behind Damian Martinez and Fletch. And yeah, we were up 21-7 against Syracuse, and they put him in the game and tried to get him carries, and it kind of bogged the offense down a little bit. And Syracuse got back in the game, obviously, and ended up ruining our season. This time they saw the game out, but this is also very different because Damian Martinez was running really well that day and breaking off chunk plays, and it didn't make any sense in this case. Yeah. In this case, you're getting 2 yards of carry. It's not much difference there. And it was now, now that the game is over and you've won the game, it's great he got those carries because, like you said, he's going to play a part going forward. This team has a lot of football left if you're thinking about, regular season, potentially ACC championship and playoffs down the road.
I think those are realistic, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could play up to 5 extra games in the back half of the season. So, you're gonna need Jordan Lyle, period. So to me, it made sense to get him some work. I will say, as we kind of pivot to why the scoring stopped. Really, it bogged down a little bit in the second quarter. Towards the end, there were opportunities to really step on them. There was a fumble recovery and then didn't cash in. It was, and I'm going to switch tabs here a little bit because there's a ongoing problem here with the penalties. I mean, 13 for 114, and we're going to talk about the defense as well, because they had some critical penalties as well, but 13 for 114 and 2 drives in a row were killed by pre-snap penalties. A touchdown was wiped out by a pre-snap penalty. Got to clean that up. The same thing happened against Florida, where and Notre Dame, where the drives, moving the ball up the field and then just drive killing penalties. Because one of the things is, like, Florida State's got a good team. They're tough. We have to do some grinding out of parts of the game. When you're backing up 5 yards, it's very hard to grind. And so there are a couple of situations there where those penalties were killer.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like you said, it's been a problem, not just this game, but throughout the course of the season. And, especially on a night when, you couldn't really use your running game to supplement, get 5 yards here, make it second manageable and things like that. You put a lot on the shoulders of your quarterback, Carson, back, but he delivered. He did deliver, but it's not an ideal position that you want your offense to be in. And, penalties like that, especially as we, get to the playoffs and get to the later part of the season, I mean, those could end up being extremely crucial. Luckily, it didn't hurt us a ton in this game. Like, Casey Kane fan said it's going to end up biting us, and yes, it will. If they don't clean this up, it's going to end up biting us at possibly the worst moment, especially when you talk about some of these better teams in these bigger games.
Yeah, and if you look, it did help, and we're going to talk defense. Actually, we can go ahead and pivot maybe to some defense discussion as well. Shout out Terrence, another friend of the show. Yep, that is the plan. That is the plan, my friend. A lot of the kind of hand wringing from Canes fans you mentioned, it was 28-3. The game was fully in hand and kind of sat on it, and had to recover 3 onside kicks, which again you should recover them. And they were bailed out by Florida State, never kicking any of them 10 yards. So so like they weren't good. They weren't good onside kicks, which was helpful. But one of the reasons the defense that Florida State kept moving the ball was the defense had some critical penalties that extended drives. Ruben Bain had the horse collar. There was a personal foul when Castellanos slid. Although that was a BS call, but
those are always a gray area type of call. I mean, sorry to interrupt you here, but I mean, quarterbacks can very easily slide and get a penalty called, and they know what they're doing. So, I mean, I don't like those calls.
Yeah, no, I thought that call in particular was weak. But again, those things added up. There was the targeting on the punt return, which I don't think should be I know people debate targeting versus not targeting, whether it's a good rule or not. I'm generally in favor of player safety. However,
I don't like targeting.
I think it's fine when it's enforced evenly. However, I don't think you should be eligible on a punt return. because you can fair catch it.
Yeah.
So, like, you can actually wave your hand in the air and avoid being hit, period. If
Yeah.
you choose not to do that, well, that's on you.
And I think they
You
know
should,
that they can draw the targeting if they don't do it. That's the thing.
yeah. So I think that's kind of a BS application of the rule. I know it is the rule. Like, it was a good call based on the way the
It's like
rules
trying to
went. But
draw a foul. It's like trying to draw contact and get a foul in the NBA.
yeah, no, that is kind of what it is. And so I don't think there should be targeting a
No.
situation where a player can give himself up easily, but that's the rule, and it was a good call. But that was another one that kind of again jump started their drive. The Castellanos slide one was a big one because the clock was running. That they were out of timeouts, and honestly, if they didn't call that, they would have lost 20 or 30 seconds off the clock trying to line up because everyone was out of position, and it would have been like 3rd and 7 or something. And so it was a 15-yard penalty, a first down, a free timeout. And that's why they scored that last score happened because of that. So, it is what it is. We just got to clean up some of the penalties, I think. If you go back and rewatch how FSU was doing those drives, it was a lot of 3rd and 4th down conversions and a lot of penalties extending drives. If you look at the overall, conversions, they were 10 of 20 on 3rd and 4th down. That's not a good number for the defense, so that's something that they need to work on getting off the field. That was problematic on those drives. Now, because that's what it took FSU to drive, they kind of ran out of time. But that you want to get off the field in those situations, and the Canes couldn't.
Yeah, and it's something that you see a ton of really good teams struggle with third down defense, and third down is hard, and then you add in the penalties. They definitely do have to clean it up. But at the same time, I feel like Heffernan does a good job of maximizing what he can get out of his players and coaching them up and developing them. So I'm confident that they'll be able to turn that around. But like you said, it's something that we've seen not just this game, but for the past couple games. This season, there's been instances of penalties and third down conversions. So especially with mobile quarterbacks, it seems like the defense struggles a little bit, and Castellanos did run a little bit. I mean, not too effectively, but he was able to get some yards. And so that's something to watch as well.
Yeah, I mean, so we were talking about how penalties kill the offense. They also hurt the defense. So we kind of pivoted to that, and also there was a lot of what I would call empty calories from Florida State at the end. In the end, they never had the ball with the chance to actually tie or take the lead or anything. So we did see the game out, but they did get a lot of yardage in that 4th quarter while the clock was running. It was basically like them getting yardage, us just allowing them to almost and letting the clock run. And it worked. We won the game. So those yards are a little misleading.
Yeah.
The 404 yards, I mean, they had the 96-yard touchdown drive, which was just a lot of nickel and diming the ball down the field while we, again, let them, okay, they took 6 minutes to make that drive or whatever it was. Fine. That's like half the game left. With that said, so all those caveats, because we got the stats up. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening to the audio later, the stats are up on the screen, and it looks like FSU had a lot of success offensively. Our defense was awesome for most of that game, and we started out with some negatives on the penalties, and then if you look at the stats, like it didn't look like that good of it was a great defensive performance. FSU got an explosive on the first drive and got a field goal out of it, and that was it for a majority of the game. Forced 3 turnovers. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are menaces. They were all over Castellanos. He had to, he made, like you say, he's a playmaker. We talked about this last week. He's a playmaker. He's going to make some plays with his legs. He's going to get outside the pocket some, make some throws. He did that, but by and large contained him. And contain their running game for much of the game. And again, it's a little misleading because of that 4th quarter where we were willing to give up yardage for time. And again, that worked and we won the game. So we can say we didn't like the style points, but a win's a win. And they saw the game out, and the strategy was to give up yardage to take time. And so that's why the yards look sideways. But man, the defense was everywhere, like you said. Great adjustments from the defensive coordinator. They had a game plan to hold Castellanos in check. Hit, forced fumbles, couple of fumbles forced, and then one recovered, and then that interception. Man, again, Bryce Fitzgerald again.
Yeah.
He's got 3 now. He's a ball hawk. He's a ball hawk.
Yeah, he's played really, really well, and he's a guy that we didn't even necessarily think he could make this big an impact this early, but he is a ball hawk. He just seems to be wherever the ball is, and much like OJ Frederick last year, he's kind of emerging as that ball hawking, playmaking type of defensive back, and they've done a really good job of developing defensive backs in recent memory, and Bryce Fitzgerald looks to be another one.
Yeah, and then that was that fourth down, that big interception on fourth down as FSU was going for it. Again, pass rush got home, and he kind of had to throw it up for grabs a little bit, and just an alert play from the Canes defense. Yeah, I mean the front is a menace, and I was also really impressed with Torre. He, we weren't sure. We knew he was really good at Rutgers a couple of years ago, and he's coming off an injury. We weren't sure. Man, he is so good.
Yep.
He is so good, especially against the run. He's great lane fills. He's a great tackler. And that, I mean, he's been a huge addition to that linebacking room. And we haven't talked about him a lot on our shows for whatever reason, but I thought he had an outstanding game as well.
Yeah, 10 tackles and a sack so far. 10 solo tackles and a sack so far this year. 6 tackles on Saturday, and he's just been a ball magnet, much like Fitzgerald, and he's brought this sort of physical edge to the defense that Heffernan really likes in general, and he fits really well stylistically, and you see, why Miami wanted him. I mean, you see why Miami brought him in, because he's that physical thumper who tries to make plays, does make plays, and brings that edge.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and like you said, he's a perfect linebacker for this defense because they're physical, and he's a physical player. This team hits. Like, obviously, I think some of our fans have an opportunity to go to Hard Rock or in Tallahassee last night, and some of you haven't seen them in person. If you see this team in person, that is the first thing you notice. They're so physical. Everyone hits. Everyone swarms to the ball. I don't think you're allowed on the field if you're afraid of contact.
Yeah.
There's just they hit a lot, and
that goes
to
the offense too, and the run, and like the running backs, for example. I mean, they love the contact, and it's a team. This team is just we're so physical, and that shows, like, in games like this. Like, that was just Florida State got the ball first and threw a punch, and then the Canes came back and didn't score on the next drive, and just over the course of that first quarter into the second quarter, just the physicality wore FSU down. It is very hard to play against this Miami team. You feel them, and I love how physical and how tough this team is, and as Martin said, like Mesidor unloading on Castellanos. Bain was all over the field. Our linebackers are everywhere, and as Martin also says, the safety play. Jacoby Thomas is elite. He's been playing at a high level all year. That, again, today he was everywhere. Had the interception in the end zone, but also just making tackles left and right. And he's an outstanding player. What a find he is. Absolutely, and we were wondering in the spring, where he would fit in this defense and if he would fit, and the answer is a resounding yes. I mean, he's been so good for multiple games now. Pretty much, every game this season, it seems like you hear his name or he's being mentioned, and when you look at just again how physically he plays, how he tracks the football, he's just been so impressive.
Yeah, he's absolutely been outstanding, and it's been a huge help. Our safety play wasn't great last year, and he's been light years better than that. Shout out to Rock and Rant, my guy. We met met right before the Florida game. Man, I had it 28-10 as the final, and I was feeling pretty good about one point there.
Yeah,
But
I kind of discredited the FSU defense, but they held in. They held in and made it a game.
Yep, and then shout out to Mr. Overdose, another long-time listener. Yeah, and this team's gonna be physical. They're gonna make people, earn a win, and FSU couldn't do that. So it was a really strong performance. I will say it's kind of interesting because I think our fans have so much PTSD from blown. I mean, let's be real. Like, you're up 21-0 last year with really. So, I mean, just to reset the the context. It was 21-0 with essentially a top 4 seed in the playoffs and a bye in your hands, and you blow the game and miss the playoffs entirely. We're 2 years removed from not kneeling the ball at the end of the game and then giving up a touchdown 2 plays. I think that gets kind of lost because obviously Mario shouldn't kneel the ball. It's his fault. But you also gave up a touchdown 2 plays, 80 yards. Like, if you didn't do that, then you win the game anyway. And then everyone's like, wow, that was stupid. We should have kneeled it. Didn't matter. And so I think, when games start to tighten up like this, our fans immediately, like, just all of the baggage comes with it, and they freak out. And I think we saw a lot of that. And the thing I think is ironic, we saw that from our fans. The national response to this game, because of the way it was played, and it was on national TV, and it was really the only big game in that slot. Everyone was watching it. What they saw was that the Miami Hurricanes were the best team in college football. And the reaction is they dominated. They should probably be number 1. They might not be because Ohio State's the defending champion, but this is the best team. And talking about, 3rd ranked win. And that doesn't count Florida because that was not a ranked win. So it's USF, it's Notre Dame, and it's Florida State. So, like, I feel like the national media is more bought in than maybe our fans are at this point, which is because they viewed that for what that was. It was playing the score and clock, letting them, move the ball essentially, because you don't want to give a big play. That's how you could actually lose the game. So you're going to let them play underneath, let the clock run, and get out of there with a win. And I think our fans, with all that baggage coming to the table, are like, we could have lost that, but I don't think that's really viewed that way by most, like, kind of national observers of that game.
It's not viewed that way by me either. I mean, you look at just the national slate this weekend. You had Penn State, falling. You had Texas falling. You even had a team like Iowa State, who was 14th, falling to unranked, Cincinnati. So I don't think it's a stretch to say that the Miami Hurricanes are currently the best team in college football.
Yeah, and I think that's what jumped out to most people. For us, again, with all this baggage, you're up 28-3, and you start to see the opponent coming back. Yeah. We've done stuff before, so
right.
I think confidence, it's a fickle thing there. So, but I do wonder. So, and I think this is another part of it, as Martin's pointing out. It was, Florida and Notre Dame were also kind of, game should have been further, should have had a bigger lead, and obviously ended up winning both those games. Notre Dame actually tied it towards the end, but
they did. I remember that. Yeah.
So, and you mentioned, at the top when I said what were your initial thoughts, one of the things kind of sat on the lead, and in this case the lead was much bigger, so kind of, saw the game out. But is this a trend to be concerned about, that tend to kind of, steal a British term, down tools towards the end of the game and just kind of go into a shell?
I don't like going into the shell towards the end of the game. I don't think it's a good habit to get into. Concerned with this level of talent and Carson Beck, no, but I don't like how we seem to kind of just go into a shell when it's the second half or the fourth quarter.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question is I think that's a lot of people are, kind of saying what I think Martin's saying too as well, which is, should have put the game away much easier.
Yeah.
But Um, Martin, you missed some. Well, I mean, there were some good times at the beginning of that period from '96 to 2017, but then it got bad. But I think so. I'm gonna actually have a different take on what happened yesterday, which is I don't think we slammed the ball into the line enough. There were some curious decisions to throw in that fourth quarter that I just didn't understand. One of them was I think the first drive that we had there. It was like 3rd and 18, and we threw like an 8-yard out route that was incomplete. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what was that
Yep.
going to do?
Yeah.
just
I had the
even
same thought.
just
Yeah.
run it. And there were several incompletions that added a couple of minutes to the clock that didn't need to be there. If without which it probably ends 28-11.
Yeah.
So it's. Yeah, I mean, I think with a lead that big, you just run the football and keep the clock
Yeah.
moving. And we actually threw quite a bit in that fourth quarter and threw some incompletions that we
Probably back to
didn't.
the Cam Ward days.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit too much throwing. I thought like we should just, and I know the right. So I mean, I guess the difference in Dawson's defense, like the run game wasn't working. So in my opinion, at that point, with that lead, it doesn't matter. The clock is more important. But I get it. Like he's thinking, if I can hit one of these throws or two of these throws, the game, like we'll get a first down or two. The game's way over.
In that situation, you run the football, drain the clock, punt if you have to, take your sweet time on each play to drain said clock, and then play field position with a pretty stout defense. That's what I would have done, But I definitely see why he called the game the way he did, but I would have just run it, drain the clock, taking off as much time as possible, and then played field position.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic he's getting criticized for basically not doing the thing I think he should for doing something I don't think he did that I think he should have done, because I think everyone's saying kind of shut the offense down and kept running, and actually quite a bit of throwing in that fourth quarter. If you go back and watch it again, the incompletions were killer because it stopped the clock.
Yeah.
And keeping in mind, if you're familiar with college football rules, like the clock, even if you go out of bounds, runs, they spot the ball and wind it until there's 2 minutes left. So really the only way you're stopping the clock is throwing an incompletion or a timeout situation. And the fact that we were throwing, again, that 3rd and 18 pass attempt, like I don't know what we're doing there, because it wasn't even to the sticks. Like there was no best case scenarios you complete like an 8-yard pass and punt anyway. You might as well just run it at that point. So there were some curious decisions.
It gets the offense out of
rhythm
rhythm too. Like there's a certain rhythm to the game, and it gets the offense out of rhythm when you have incompletions and things like that. So I mean, it was a curious decision throw.
Yeah, it was a couple of a little bit of strange decision making. And I think it's ironic that he's getting criticized for not for going into a shell and not running and not throwing. And I actually felt like there was probably too much passing.
I mean, you and I have been wanting to run the football for years now, so it just kind of tracks with us. But yeah.
Yeah, and actually, if you look at the so that for actually it was 28-3, and this is back to the penalties. It was 28-3, and Jordan Lyle, had a nice little run, and we got called for holding, and that's what got it. And I'm looking at the here. I'll just share this actually. You can kind of see how this drive unfolded. This is the one that this is at 28-3. It started the fourth quarter. This penalty right here, this holding. Oops, what did that do?
Actually, that's pretty cool.
What the hell's replay? It's showing the
drive. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, well, oops. Now we're way off the reservation. Play by play, live clicking, live shows are fun. So it was this drive. I thought, this again. We talked about killer penalties, so you can see ran for 1 first down. This is exactly what you want to do in this situation. And then moving it again, this holding pushed the team back. But then I don't understand these two plays.
Yeah.
And especially this 3rd and 16, and we threw like an 8-yard pass, an out route that was incomplete.
Yeah.
Like that one, again, you look at the clock, that's 30, 40 seconds. And then they drove down, scored. This one, again, incompletion on 3rd down. That's another 40 seconds.
Honestly, in that situation, I would have thrown it deep. If it gets intercepted, it's like a punt. If it gets incomplete, you just punt the ball off. There's no need for an 8-yard, kind of mini
Yeah,
pass.
they tried to complete the first down. So they threw it to the sticks this time. But again, like, I don't know why. I know they're getting criticized for like going into a shell. I'm just showing like he was actually throwing the ball. This one was the last drive where again, another incompletion. This was a completion, so we got to call out like when it worked. This was the throw to Bauman on 3rd and 6. But again, this was like a screen pass almost. This was more up the field. Again, not really a reason to do that. And then this is where I thought we're going to go into a shell, but then, on 4th down, we can talk about this decision to not kick the field goal, but
we don't like to kick field goals.
Well, so
historically,
yeah, and then that was obviously end of game here on the kneel. So there were multiple incompletions. This one wouldn't have run the clock.
No.
But these other ones would have. This one, there's 3 full play clocks. That's 2 minutes that did not run off the clock because of the decision to throw. So
yeah,
we can debate whether or not that was the right decision, but I do think it's unfair to criticize Dawson and by extension Mario and saying they just chose to run the ball, went into a shell, and that's why Florida State because they kept throwing and they just stopped completing them.
Yeah, at that point they should have run. They should have.
Well, I would have kept running. I would just work the clock, but we can debate because if you hit 1 or 2 of those and you go up 35-3 or whatever, then everyone's like, "Wow." So no one's saying anything, including me. So it's all 2020 hindsight. I just think it's an unfair criticism to say they were just running when they weren't. You can see the play chart they were throwing. But and then we can talk a couple other points I want to talk about, and then as we kind of head towards maybe wrapping up here. So what did you think of this decision here on this drive to go for it on 4th and 8 at the FSU 23? It was clearly in Carter Davis's field goal range.
I didn't like it. I would have tried the field goal. Always try to get the points. Especially with how, again, the 4th quarter kind of stalled out and the offense kind of was disjointed for certain periods. I would have tried to take the points, especially considering, Carter Davis's leg has been pretty strong this season.
Yeah. So according to Mario after the game, I don't know if you saw his comments, he said the chart said to go for it on 4th and more than a certain yardage in that situation. So just doing the math on it, though, it was a 9-point game at the time. So if you kick the field goal, it's 12. So it's still just a 2-score game. If you convert it, you're basically taking a knee, I think, at that point, because I believe it was under the 2-minute. So I don't. Yeah, I think I'm trying to figure out why the chart would say, because again, if you kick the field goal, they need 2 touchdowns, or because it's 12 points. So even a touchdown or 2 and a field goal is only 11.
What if the chart is Mario just justifying his decision and there really is no chart?
I don't think so, because I think stranger things have happened, right? But I think the reason I think the chart does that is because how does FSU get back into that game? There's under 2 minutes left. They don't have timeouts left. They have to recover an onside kick. They need a big play. One way that could happen easily is like a block on a field goal and you run it back or something. Right. So I think the field goal is a higher risk play than any kind of offensive play you run, and that probably the percentages are probably borderline there. Because again, when they do these charts, it's just a bunch of math behind it. It's like, what's the percentage of them blocking the field goal and running it back? What's the percentage of you making the field goal? And then, then you kick off to them, and then, they play the simulation out from there. Right. It's a 12-point game. They have the ball with 2 minutes left, roughly. What are the chances you convert the 4th down, in which case game over? And you stick that all into the machine, and it spits out a percentage of likely win percentage based on the play call. And I think it makes sense because, the 4th down in what was it, 4th and 8, the percentage conversion on that is probably 25 to 30%, and that's game over. So if you factor that in and then factor all the negatives that can have on a field goal, I think that's what justified it. I think we only really cared because Florida State kicked that field goal, and you're like, oh man, I wish we had 3 more points right now. So, because then they made 28-22, and you're like, man, if it was 31-20, well, they wouldn't have kicked the field goal, obviously. If it was 31-19, they would have tried to get into the end zone, which would have taken more time, and they probably wouldn't have scored, and they might have won 31-19. So, but again, the percentage is not for margin of victory; it's for winning the game. So, I actually, I was okay with going for it, and going for just trying to like ice the game there. But I don't know. The pass got tipped, I believe, which is why I kind of floated.
It did look like a tip, yeah.
But I haven't seen the replay of it, honestly, so maybe it didn't. Maybe he did just float it out there, but it was out in the flat. I think going.
I don't know. It's a tough play call because either way, you're taking a risk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I personally would have gone for the field goal, but you know.
Yeah, I think probably the overarching point is that regardless of like what decision you made, the Canes have played so well up to that point that they were in a high win situation regardless. So if they kick the field goal, probably going to win the game. Go for it, probably going to win the game. So
and you allow yourself room to play when you take care of business earlier in the game. You allow yourself to make these decisions without a lot of impact. Unlike the Syracuse game last year, where we kind of had to make some difficult decisions on the fly, and they were magnified because we lost.
Yeah, no, exactly. And in this case, like, I don't think there was I think either decision's justifiable. Like, that's not, we would have played, obviously they'd recovered the onside kick and caught a Hail Mary or whatever. Then, like, we would have been like, oh my God, we just passed on a field goal, but that's playing
sort of like results. A damned if you do, damned if you don't, I mean.
Exactly. Yeah, we did hit up Bojangles. I mean, we'd both been before. Shout out to Katie Meyer.
I don't think I've been before.
Yeah, it's a very much a southern thing. Yeah. Coach Meyer came on, and she's from North Carolina, which is where Bojangles is from. By the way, the CEO of Bojangles is a Miami guy. He is from Miami, went to the U. Yeah, just clearing out some of these comments. So I do think there was some issues in the, and then I want to talk a little bit because there's a comment about the officiating. Like, I do think there was an issue which when Castellanos would break contain to the edges where our DBs and linebackers were looking in the backfield, there was a lot of kind of, he got outside the edge and just someone standing wide open in the flat, just not covered, and the DBs could have closed on that and just didn't, like, because they kind of were stuck looking, trying to cover and make a tackle. And so, again, there's some stuff to work on there. And so, yeah, no, I mean, I think they could clean some of that up. Especially, again, just peeking in the backfield is going to get you in trouble. And I think there was some of that from the corners where, the coverage was there, and then they kind of, again, everyone I think was very concerned with Castellanos running, that they kind of started focusing more on that and lost their coverage.
Yeah, it seems like we kind of struggle as running quarterbacks sometimes, but I thought by and large we did pretty well against Castellanos.
We
coming in.
Yeah, we definitely. I think we focused a lot on stopping him from scrambling and making plays. And I think we, like you said, we largely did that. There were a few instances, but largely we did that. But I think part of that was also our DBs were all focused on that too, and they did lose coverage a little bit when we were in some of those zones, I think is what LM's talking about. But overall, there's some little things to work on. Nothing too bad there. Yeah, I mean the officiating was pretty lopsided statistically, and yeah, I do think. Look, so there's a natural tendency. Several comments in the chat on the officiating. There's a tendency to when a team is getting their ass kicked, for the officials to kind of give them favorable calls, and I thought that happened. Again, we can look at the incompletions where the Canes could have run more time off. There were a lot of missed penalties on FSU and a lot of borderline calls on us in that fourth quarter that aided that comeback attempt, including there were multiple pretty obvious intentional groundings that they didn't call that would have essentially ended the game. It's a sack, it's a penalty, it's a 10-second runoff, and they didn't call them, and especially after that absurd when they called them back in the first drive, like it was where it was a miscommunication with the receiver and they called grounding. I thought that was, I think they just didn't call it because they're giving FSU a chance to stay in the game, and refs do that. It's the same reason, one of the reasons, again, not to bring up old wounds, but the whole Georgia Tech not kneeling the ball, like, also, like, Don Chain didn't fumble. He was lying flat on the ground with the ball. But, they're like, oh, let's give him a shot, and then they took it.
You're twisting the knife, Vish. You're twisting the knife. I can't take.
Well, I'm feeling good, 5-0. But yeah, no, exactly. This was actually a terrible call because Blunt pulled out of it, and just it was incidental contact, and again, I mean, Castellanos kind of slid into him. It was a terrible call, and it's one I don't think they make if the game is tied.
And I have to say, I was talking about this with one of my other writer friends the other day, and the lack of holding calls across college football in general, whether it be Big Ten, SEC, ACC, is very, very interesting. It seems like the officials and the officiating, by and large, they're letting a lot of holding calls get uncalled. So I think it's interesting that the holding penalty is kind of going a little bit by the wayside this year, depending on what game you watch.
No, for sure. And Bain was getting held quite a bit.
Yeah, he was.
That was,
I mean, how else are they going to stop him, right?
Yeah, and I don't think they've even called a holding penalty on FSU.
No.
So they did on the Kansas. We said that one killed the drive to start the fourth quarter after they'd run for one first down, and frankly, it was 28-3 and moving the ball. And that, again, if you go back and watch how FSU went from down 25 to down 6 at the end of the game, again, they never had the ball with the chance to actually do anything. So mission accomplished. But it was a lot of timely penalties, some of them legitimate, some of them not. Some curious decisions to throw, and you probably should have run. And some missed tackles as well, just a little bit of focus lost there. But also FSU was like string of luck with these fourth down conversions and just, a lot of fluky. I mean, it was 28-11. They converted a fourth and long. Like that would have been game right there. I mean, so just it was a lot of like basically every single thing went right for FSU and still lost.
Not to get on my soapbox here, but allow me, if you will, for a minute. Indulge me for a minute. But illegal hands to the face. Illegal hands. I hate the illegal hands to the face penalty because 95.5% of the time, the guy's just trying to make a block, make a tackle, and I get the point of it because you don't want, you're supposed to block or guard, pads and whatever. But half the time, these guys truly don't know when they're going for the face mask. And when they go for the face mask, you call a face mask penalty, or, if it's a little bit lower, a horse collar. But illegal hands to the face on ticky-tack, line play is driving me crazy. It really is driving me crazy.
Yeah, no, it should be, I totally agree with you. It should be similar to the face mask penalty in that, like, if it's incidental contact, you don't call it. Because there are times where especially the defender, someone's going against the offensive line, straight up, just like their plan is like, I'm gonna shove him in the face and like call that. But like you said, the grazing and all that. I mean, there's a reason they got rid of. So actually, one of the rule changes, this was several years ago. I don't know if you remember, they used to have the 5-yard face mask in the 15. They got rid of the 5-yard because look, if it's just grazing, like I'm not calling a penalty. So they got rid of the 5 yards. So now it has to be a 15. Probably illegal hands to the face needs something similar. Where, like, if it's just grazing or just touching it and it's not really, like, intentional, it shouldn't be a penalty.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know this, but I've always wanted this, and, I might as well bring it up here while talking about rules. Why does college football not have spot fouls?
You mean for, like, pass interference?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's another thing that's kind of always in, like, why is it the NFL, it's a spot foul, but why does college football not have spot fouls? That's always been interesting to me. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat knows.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons, and it's probably a good thing, that college football does not do the spot foul on pass interference. And shout out to Orange and Green Blood, talking some facts here in the chat. Yeah, that Malachi Tony callback was a
Yep.
curious one.
Yep.
With the quality of officiating in college football, it's probably better that they don't have that much power.
That's
So,
true.
so the worst you can do is a 15-yard penalty or a half the distance. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, we do see this in the NFL quite a bit, right? Where they throw it up, knowing, like, just hoping
Yeah.
they're going to get pass interference because it's a spot foul. So I don't know if there's a right way to do that, but with the way college officials are, like, I don't trust them to have the ability to call like a 50-yard penalty on a deep
Games
pass.
would be like 200 to
I know.
175.
I don't think they're good enough at officiating.
Take a Big 12 game or a formerly Big 12 game, and the score would be 600 to 750.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, it was another big win for the Canes. Moved to 5-0. It's the first ACC win, first road win of the season. So big dominating performance, despite the last few minutes not going as smoothly. Can't complain when you go into Tallahassee and beat FSU comfortably, which is what that game was. So I overall no concerns on my end, DJ. I don't know about you. I mean, there's some things to clean up, but that's why you have a bye week coming. So
no concern. The string of quality wins in this 5-game stretch. Carson Beck looked really good. The team looks really good, and I have no problem calling these guys the best team in college football.
Absolutely. And real quick before we wrap, just pulling this up. So these are the ACC standings.
Wow. That's how we all predicted, right?
I'm just because we haven't played as many ACC games because, again, we had all of our out of conference games. But like Virginia's already 3-0, Duke is 3-0. That's there's only 8 conference games. Like, they put a marker down there. So kind of interesting to see how this shapes up. We don't play any of the top 3 teams in front of us. We don't play Duke, Virginia, or Georgia Tech. And then SMU is also the only other undefeated team in the ACC besides us. They all have only played one game as well. We're going to obviously play in Dallas, so we do play them. But a lot of season left, obviously. But as I looked this morning, I was like, wow, these are like almost inverted. I think we're the only team like coming in. Georgia Tech was highly thought of. I don't think everyone thought they're as good as they are, but I think they were highly thought of. Yeah, but I mean, if you look at that, like Georgia Tech and Miami expected to be up there, but Virginia, Duke, SMU. Before we get to teams with lost, and look at the bottom is where like Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State are sitting.
Use Tom Brady now.
You can kind of see the Florida State logo half cutting off. Because they're so far down there. So that cluster of 3 teams, Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State, are actually the teams that a lot of people thought would be at the top of the standing. So it's been a very interesting opening to the ACC schedule. So we'll see how this pans out. Obviously, a lot of football to be played. This is going to go all over the place schedule wise, but yeah, the standings there could be an interesting opponent in the ACC championship.
Was it Bill Belichick or was it Tom Brady? That's always the debate here in New England. It's looking like it was Tom Brady.
Well, I mean, I think it was both.
It was both, but you saw, and I'm sure as Dolphins fans see who are watching this, you saw the post Brady life in New England wasn't all that rosy.
No, that's true. But I mean, like those first Super Bowl, like the first Super Bowl, when Brady wasn't even the starter coming into the year, he wasn't nearly what he would become at that point. Like that, they won that with defense, which is Belichick's calling card. I just don't understand what North Carolina is thinking, hiring a 73-year-old coach that's never coached in college to try and run a program like crazy. And I think we're seeing that. It's a very different sport than the NFL. And I don't think this has anything to do with whether or not, it was Brady or him in New England, because like this was just a bad fit entirely. Like I wouldn't hire an NFL coach that's that old and that much success in the NFL trying to run a college program. It's a totally different sport.
And I think maybe that they were hoping to replicate, sorry to bring this up, but a Nick Saban type of thing. And I don't know if
Nick Saban failed in the NFL.
Yeah. Well, no, but I meant like bring an NFL style coach to, back to college and see what he could do. And
yeah, but I think Nick Saban was a champion in college already. Like I mean, if Belichick coached in college, it was like in the 70s. he was the Giants defensive coordinator when they won Super Bowls in the 80s. Like, this guy has not been anywhere near a college campus in decades. So, like, it was a curious decision. It's kind of blown up in their face. But anyway, back to our boys. To wrap up here. Anything else from that game, DJ, that we didn't touch on?
I mean, Florida State's not a terrible team. They can play pretty well, and you know, these rivalry games always add a little bit of extra juice to it. And you know, I thought Miami did a good job of just getting the job done. And you know, it wasn't necessarily flashy at times, but they're figuring out how to win and how to close a game, and you know, not have it necessarily be the prettiest. So that's encouraging. Hey, what's up? How you doing? That's encouraging as well.
I have a viewing audience now.
You do have a viewing audience. Did you enjoy your French fries?
You can talk. Oh, you can't hear. She can't hear because I got. You asked if you enjoyed the French fries.
Which French fries? I had a lot of French. Oh, the victory fries.
Yes, the victory fries.
The victory fries were good. I had French fries for breakfast too.
Oh, yesterday at Bojangles. Terrence, you know Terrence. He watches Buckets too. He asked for a Bojangles review. So maybe we'll do one on Buckets next time.
The egg and cheese biscuit with the fries were excellent.
There you go, Terrence. There's your review. And also excellent is the University of Miami football program. Best team in the country.
Yeah, by
5-0. Came into Tallahassee, physically dominated, come out winners. Basically ended their season. That's a good week of work.
I don't like the Friday game coming up though, Vish. I don't like Friday games.
Yeah, we'll see. We got a week to talk about that. We'll talk about that on Six Rings Canes. Tomorrow, join us at 8:30. We'll have the full crew back. We'll review this game, obviously, and then another bye week before heading to Louisville. DJ, thanks for getting up with me early this Sunday morning as I head to the airport here and head back to a civilized society in Miami.
Have a safe flight.
Yeah, thank you. Go Canes.
Go Canes.